Fading. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I call to order the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners in a business meeting, June 23rd, 2016. First order of business is our county administrator will take the roll.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. It's kind of a gray, dreary, damp day outside. I hope it ends up getting sunnier and drier and more delightful for the Lavender Festival for the coming weekend here. Let's hope so. I'll go ahead and introduce Mr. Stephen Madcore from County Counsel's office, and then Mary Rathke, Clerk of the Board. Now the roll. Commissioner Bernard?
Here.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Reynolds?
Here.
Commissioner Savas?
Here.
Commissioner Schrader?
Here.
Chair Ludlow.
Here we all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God, they did good. Very good. All right, I want to announce that the board will recess as the County Board of Commissioners and convene as the Housing Authority Board for the next item. And to introduce somebody who's been here before, Commissioner Paul Reynolds. Welcome. All right, I'll ask the clerk to read the Housing Authority consent agenda by title.
Okay, the Housing Authority consent agenda. In the matter of writing off uncollectible accounts for the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2016, and a resolution 1913 approving the Housing Authority of Clackamas County fiscal year 2016-2017 budget.
All right, Commissioners, you want to remove any of those items? I'll ask for a motion.
Move we approve the Housing Authority consent agenda.
Second.
All right, motion made by Commissioner Reynolds, second by Commissioner Savas. Any further discussion? All right, Mary?
Commissioner Reynolds.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 6-0. I want to thank Commissioner Reynolds for attending again for such a short item. Thank you, sir. All right, we will adjourn as the Housing Authority Board, reconvene as the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners for the remainder of the meeting. Our next item is we try to have up front is citizens communication. I'll call you up in twos. There's a few today. Jeff Reister and Les Poole.
It's this thing.
Either one of you.
Put some notes together so I can keep my thoughts. My name's Jeff Reister, and I'm appreciative of the opportunity to just come here and share my thoughts and concerns. For the past 20 years, I've been an owner and an operator of a small custom woodworking business in Clackamas County, and I work under the home occupation permit on exclusive farm use land. I'm here today by invitation of Commissioner Smith, and I'm here to request expansion on my shop. It's right now about 576 feet. I'm wanting to go up to around 1,800 square feet. I'm also here to advocate for other small businesses in Clackamas County and how the home occupation rules affect those businesses. There's a need to have rules in place to regulate business, but each business needs to be evaluated based individually on the type of business and the location that they're at. In 2001, I testified several times before a different board here, but it's different commissioners, regarding size of building or use of size of building. At that time, there was a rule change made, and they moved it up to 1,500 square feet with an opportunity to apply for an exception up to 3,000 square feet, and which was at the time fine with me. But I have not been in the position, but now I'm in the position of and wanting to expand up to about 1,800 square feet is what I'm looking for. But I'm not allowed to apply for the exception because of an extra rule applied to the exception subsection 822.06 regarding classification of the road where my residence is located. The road restrictions were added on after this decision allowing the application for exception for larger building space. So essentially, the exception wasn't put into place, but then later on, when I went to go talk about it, they said, well, because you live on this classification of road, you can't even apply for the exception, is how it came about. So, and at the time, my arguments for having a larger shop, and I think you should have, do you have copies of those?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Several of them is the idea is to fit in with the surroundings of where you live. My shop is smaller than everybody else's shop on the street, and I can't build it bigger because of those restrictions. The other thing is there's lots of restrictions on how I run my business. In other words, how often I can come in and out, that I have to be the one who runs it, that I can only have so many employees, I can only make so much noise, I can only make, so much interference. And there's restrictions to what I can and can't do that restricts my business, that really the shop has no effect on that, whether it's a big shop or a small shop. Doesn't affect that because the business is restricted by those operations there.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, did you say?
Yeah.
Okay. I do not have a retail business. I design and build custom furniture, which I take from there and deliver to the job site. So I don't have a bunch of people coming in and out. I've operated in this place for 20 years now, and I have never had a complaint. Every time I've renewed my home occupation, the surrounding people have a chance to anonymously put up grievances, and I've had none in those 20 years. And what I'm doing here fits well within, the area that I live. I've talked with my neighbors. I value a lot the respect of my neighbors, and that I don't intrude into what they want to do, and so it fits well in there. That's generally the layout, and I'm happy to answer any questions regarding business or home occupation or.
Commissioner Smith.
Well, thank you, Jeff, for coming forward today. I'm really happy you did because this is one of those situations that I think really falls through the cracks of intent and making our county prosperous. As a matter of fact, you said that your neighbors liked what you're doing.
Yes.
Unsolicited, I think maybe one or two submitted a letter, said, we have no problem with that. And you and I had a discussion in my office, and I mentioned, geez, there's no restrictions on the size of a horse arena. Those buildings are gargantuan. And because it's, quote, a home occupation where you make little noise, have little traffic, it seems to me that you're almost penalized for that. And, I've asked Jennifer Hughes from our planning department to come. And Jennifer, could you come up and talk to us about that? Because it's my desire to try to find a remedy for this situation. And could you help us through this?
So what we need is a code amendment. This particular section, 822, is actually scheduled under the ZDO audit to be considered sometime in 2017. To do it sooner than that would require sort of restructuring the audit a little bit, but it's possible if you wanted us to, move that into the next package of amendments.
Which is when?
We don't have hearings scheduled, but we're anticipating that it would take effect before the end of this calendar year.
I would like to look at that.
Okay.
We need some time to review it and what impact it has on other things as well. But this is clearly, an old rule that came from 2001. And back then, when we had a different set of commissioners, Jeff is right, I think there were other issues involved in when you make your decision, because you can only make a decision based on the time that you're in. And so I think we really need to look at trying to help this man. If, I want to go there, so maybe other commissioners have a comment.
Well, I think that we will take that under consideration, is my opinion. I mean, we all know that the review of the ZDO has been slowed down for a number of reasons, and that includes our consideration of the marijuana ordinances, which we put through. It has delayed our 5-year plan to the extent that this particular one, of course, is, like you said, going to be considered in 2017. Perhaps, and it will be a determination of the whole board, we can tweak that one and then come back to the whole thing in 2017. But we realize that right now we're short in planning staff, especially I called her a senior planner before, but she's actually a principal planner, like Jennifer. We're missing those kind of people right now. So I think we'll definitely consider that among other ones that possibly need some small tweaks. Commissioner Smith again?
Yeah, you know, and this is not unlike the Oregon legislature, who have passed laws for a certain business. I'm not saying we need to go down that road, because to me it's kind of too specific. But generally speaking, this is exactly what we want to see to be prosperous in Clackamas County for our people. And he obviously has a niche. Not everybody is going to do what this man does, because it's quite a unique skill set, of which he's very talented. So, yeah, I would like to go forward with this. And I understand that this is the first time these commissioners have heard this, and we need to talk about it amongst ourselves. But Jeff, thank you for coming and making us aware.
Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, I'm not adverse and certainly would like to, look at this. I don't see any particular issue with it, but if this is a great example of maybe how we can bring some other small amendments forward and this kind of a deal. But if the board is okay with this kind of a format to move something small forward, there are a lot of little tweaks here and there I think we could bring forward. But if this is a model of how we can do that or initiate that, then great. But I know that we've heard quite a few from the area that I'm at, and maybe we could take some onesie-twosies as opposed to an overall larger scoped amount of work. But there are a number of little details that impede. Then they're relatively, I won't say meaningless, but maybe they had meaning at some point in time, but they maybe in today's world, they could stand for an update or a tweak here. So thanks for bringing this forward.
Jennifer, while you're up here,
Yes.
we are precluded from passing some things that the state regulates, on EFU especially. They're very
Correct.
sensitive about that, correct?
That's correct.
So have you reviewed what Mr. Reisner?
I have not, I've looked at the letter. I haven't actually looked at his, permit, what he's already filed for and had approved in the past, or his property. But in this case, the building size limitation is something that a prior board adopted at its discretion. It's not mandated by state law. There are some home occupation standards that are specific, like the number of employees, that we can't alter that, but the building size would be within your purview.
Okay. Well, we can certainly review these, and I appreciate you coming forward today.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Poole?
Good morning, Les Poole, Clackamas County. It's great to see the staff at these meetings when you need them. And obviously, I'm not here to talk about his issue, but I hear his story frequently. I can recall there's some areas, business in Boring. I won't name specific places, but a little more flexibility would really help, because it's not about this man's business, it's about a whole lot of businesses. And obviously, I'm not encouraging that we put in noise-making or inappropriate businesses, but a little more flexibility on building size would be wonderful. And this is a chance for you to show us what performance Clackamas means. I did want to mention a couple of observations about something I saw in the newspaper. And that is that the county is looking at possibly, I think, June 28th, working towards a gas tax as an option for road maintenance. And obviously the advisory vote passed. It's my mother, I'll get it. The advisory vote passed, and the message there was, okay, we've only got a limited number of options, we've honed down, and we need to refine that. But what I see in the paper is it seems like the staff, working with the other cities, is moving in that direction without much input from the citizens or awareness. And my concern, of course, is that if the county makes a deal, so to speak, or deals or puts too much weight on what the cities want and the cities' input on this, we may end up making a deal with the cities and not with the citizens. And I don't need to reiterate that this problem, we've got to address it. And I know there's very limited sources of money, but whatever we do in November has to have a reasonable chance of passing. And certainly, if we just move forward too quickly without enough input from the citizens, I think we'll get that result that we got with the parks measure recently. I have 44 seconds left, and I'll donate that to Richard Langdon. Thank you.
There won't be probably much of that today. Commissioner Bernard.
Well, actually, I was surprised when the cities supported the gas tax. I was very surprised. You know, I guess we have to have the cities behind us. And what we need to talk about is there a split in the gas tax? Would the cities get 40 and us 60? I think we have to have them behind us. That's where the majority of the voters are. So I was really surprised. But, you know, the cities will work with us to make an effort to pass it. Otherwise, we wouldn't put it on the ballot. So I look forward to working with the cities this weekend, C4. I imagine this subject will come up.
I'll bet it will. Commissioner Smith?
Well, thank you. I was at that meeting as well. I think we all were. And the first thing the city said was, what do we get? It's not whether it's going to pass. What do we get out of it? And they were concerned if we did the vehicle registration fee, they wouldn't get 40%, and that was not our intent. I think our intent is if it's a vehicle registration or a gas tax, yes, of course, the cities will get some money. And we have been able to say there's a sheet on my desk, exactly how much money will go to each city that they can use for their roads or their sidewalks or a transportation thing that they think is important. For instance, my small town of Molalla would get about $500,000 a year. I mean, they would just be giddy over that. And the only thing that we've asked from the cities is that could you identify a couple projects in your area, in your town, that you would pave? And you know, we kind of got some blowback from the cities on that. And to me, telling your citizens what you're going to get in return for an increase in either a tax or a fee is just a no-brainer. It's something we all should do. So I'm hoping that they will come around and do that. And Richard, I mean Les, you have said, you know, listen to your citizens. Well, we've been doing outreach for 2.5 years. And now if anybody's listening out there, send emails what you think you would want to see on the ballot, a gas tax or a vehicle registration fee. So it's not like we haven't tried to elicit opinions from people, but, you know, keep bringing them in, keep bringing them in.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, all of our polling has showed that with the citizens, polling the citizens out there, that gas tax just edges out in popularity in vehicle registration fee. So I'm not so surprised, but you know, more than half of our citizens are in cities now, and less than half are in the unincorporated, but it's still pretty close. So, you know, I'm in agreement. C4 worked on this for 2011 and 12 forward into 2013, and you know, there was always pretty much an assumption that we would split that, and also split in a way that there would actually also be a pool of money that would be used to emulate what Washington County did, a pool of money that would be for region-wide or Clackamas-wide projects, that we would have some funds that we would take a portion of that. Now, that didn't come up on a couple Thursdays ago when we had this discussion, but it was certainly the goal, one of the aspects of what we were working on. And again, Washington County, I think, even I was there yesterday, I think they've raised out of their MSTIP money and spent about $600 million worth of projects over the years they've had their program. So, but they have a certain amount of money they have every year, and that's really brought them together, and they've done a lot of good work and created a lot of matching funds for so we can leverage other monies, MTIP monies, STIP monies and so forth. So it's been a huge advantage for Washington County, to be able to build roads, which we don't really have as much money as they do.
Commissioner Schrader.
So just some historical perspective here. This is at least the third to fourth time that we have worked on this issue since 2003. And I had actually, in my mind, been unfairly criticized for having done nothing. That's not true. I was part of all three of the conversations as we move forward to put initiatives on the ballot. The first time was with Larry Soa and Bill Kennemer and I. It failed. The second time was Street Smart, when we came here and with the business community worked on a plan to get information on the ballot to educate people. And I'm hopeful now that this third or fourth time, I mean, I've been working on this for years, is actually the charm. From my mind, when we had that particular meeting with the cities, I don't really care what mechanism it is. We've already tried them all. And my attitude was, let's see what everybody can agree on together so we can go forward with a united front to move ahead. Now, I will say, as you can see in the back of the room here, the longer we ignore the problem, the bigger it will get. And I can tell you that is exactly what happened and has happened in the last few years. And it has largely really not affected our capital projects as much, because federal and state dollars being allocated towards that. But it is the maintenance problem for our rural areas, for our unincorporated areas of the county that absolutely need to be addressed. And we need to have the cities on board because they have a constituency that they also have to speak to, their citizens, who are also our citizens, to really get the message out that we've been educating people for years. Hopefully now we have finally reached a tipping point where we can see the maintenance dollars we need to make sure that our rural communities can move their goods and services and make sure that they have safe roads to get in and out of their communities, Vestacada, Malala, Sandy, rural centers like Colton and Beaver Creek. So I'm hopeful something will move forward this time. And as I said, I didn't care if it was a registration fee or a gas tax. My big concern was or a trip fee, which is what we also tried way back in the day. My concern was everybody was in agreement about what that should be, and that we could each communicate to the public what projects those would be, so people will get a clear idea where the money and the additional dollars are being spent. But this has been a problem in the making for a long time, and this is one of the best education processes I've seen with the media and the outreach and the social media as well.
We, at C4, Commissioner Savas asked, and this is several months ago, asked C4, what would you prefer? Is it vehicle registration fee? Is it gas tax? And overwhelmingly, C4 said vehicle registration. So then we had this forum, this get-together with all the cities, and at which time they remember that we're mandated to share with them 40% of any vehicle registration fee. We're not mandated to give them 40% or any percentage of gas tax. However, around the table, it was a little bit threatening. The city said, well, unless you're willing to commit the 40% of the gas tax, our conversation is over here, and we might as well just leave. I mean, is that the attitude? Is it a threatening attitude? Is that how we get things done here in the county? And they basically said they wouldn't support us if we went with something else, if we did not give them the 40%. Now, how short-sighted is that? Every day, every city in this county, the majority of the people drive on county roads. So they're to say, well, unless we get a piece of the pie, we don't care about county roads. That's wrong thinking. We have 1,400 miles of roads that are in worse condition than any city in Clackamas County. Yet, we're not allowed to pursue that and take the benefits of whatever we impose, especially as a gas tax. We have to share that, and that's fine. Then the cities demanded, they went commissioner by commissioner, their answer on whether they'd be willing to share 40%. I insisted that that was not on the agenda to be making a decision. We wouldn't be doing voting at that time. They were placated by that to some extent, but they still expect that 40% no matter what, and that may or may not be given. But I don't like being threatened with the condition of our roads simply because somebody doesn't get a piece of the pie. We don't go to the cities when they're they're imposing any kind of tax and saying, unless we get something on this, we're going to oppose that. So anyway, I was not pleased by the tenor of the meeting, and the result of which we'll discuss, as was mentioned, Mr. Poole, next week. Okay, now, on to the next two, who are Jack Carlson and Jerry Myra. Either one of you.
Morning.
Morning.
Sorry about the telephone.
It's only $5. We'll collect it later, okay? All right. Tell us your name and go ahead.
My name is Jack Carlson. I live at 13517 South Leland Road. My house is approximately 80 feet away from Building A, which is going to be a marijuana processing place, I guess.
Not processing.
Pardon?
Not processing. There will be no processing on that property.
No processing?
No processing.
Well, anyway, the slab is there. It's existing. The problem I have is the slab is on the 1 acre lot, which has a house, a well, a septic, and all this. Now, is this a common use thing or what? Because it shows under the 4 acres proposal. And my question is this a common use thing, or how's this work? Do they get to use the water or for this grow, or on the 4 acres, or what?
Well, Jennifer, you might as well come up again. I believe we've met with you, and Commissioner Savas met with you as well, including staff, correct? And we went through what they can and cannot do on that property.
I haven't met with these people.
Oh, I'm sorry. The Leland Road property, as you said, is a very small parcel, but they bought the house up front also, didn't they?
The house, it was a 5 acre tract.
Right,
Then the house is tax lot 500.
right.
And then they got another address for the 4 acres, which is tax lot 802. And part of the 802 is that there's a building, proposed building on the tax lot 500.
Right. And
My question is this supposed to be on the tax lot 800? Or 802, what I mean, or?
well, I don't have the map. All I recall is the smaller parcel was the one with the house on it, right?
That is on the tax lot with the house.
Okay.
That smaller one.
Okay, that's the smaller one, and they bought that one and the 4 acre parcel, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying that they're allowed to have a building on the smaller one or the larger one?
They have a proposed building on that slab, which is on the tax lot 500.
Well, numbers don't mean much to me. Is it they have a slab on the 1 acre parcel?
Yes.
Okay, and that's where they're proposing another building, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Jennifer, are you familiar with this particular one?
I've looked at the file. I'm not, off the top of my head, I can't tell you where the line is between the two tax lots. It's all zoned the same way, and if it's owned in common ownership, it's quite possible that it's really just one, even though it's two tax lots, often legally they're
Legal tax
one,
lot of record,
and they
right.
sometimes break off the acre for tax reasons because the house and it's not in deferral and all of those things. So I don't know the answer to that question, but it's all zoned EFU, and it's an indoor grow, which means as long as they have a total of 2 acres there, you know, it's permissible. In terms of the water question that he asked, they have to get water rights from the state for the agricultural use, which would be the marijuana production, or they have to have a water source that's not subject to the requirement for a water right. So you can't use the domestic well for the house without, you know, you have to get the agricultural water right first. In this particular case, they're not proposing to use the well or to get a water right, at least at this point. They're proposing rainwater harvesting off the roofs of the buildings and recapturing the water from their air conditioning and dehumidifier units inside the building. So that's what they've submitted, and the state water resources has signed off on that.
And people should know that there are great restrictions which we put on these kind of facilities. For example, there cannot be any light emanating from that greenhouse from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. There's also a requirement for charcoal filtering for the smell, the possible smell. There's noise restrictions that are measured at the property line. So there's a lot of restrictions on this, and let's be clear, this has not started operation yet, correct?
That is true. We've been all through this, but my question was, these three buildings, and they've got the 108 by 60 buildings, one's under construction and the other one is just about done. That is just up north of me on my fence. But anyway, I'm concerned about the existing slab, which they propose under the map, is on the 1 acre, totally different from the 4 acre.
Right.
And they got a proposed building there, but I don't know if they're including that in, to me, they're including that in the 4 acre grow.
What's wrong with that?
Remembering that, like Jennifer said, and having been a real estate broker, I'll assure you this, that just because there's a property tax line doesn't mean that those properties aren't still one and the same. In other words, it's a 5 acre parcel. Oftentimes they break off the acre for tax purposes because they want to be taxed on real property value only on that acre, not on the full 5 acres. So normally on EFU, the tax man takes out approximately an acre up to 2 acres on any kind of EFU for residential purposes as well. But again, remember what she said, both of those properties are zoned the same. So if there's room on the smaller parcel to put up a building, they can. They can do that.
That's true. I agree with that. It's their property.
All right.
They can do what they want to with that property.
All right.
But they kind of played fast and loose on this. They're using part of that property for road and parking. But that's in that common use, apparently.
Well, Jennifer could probably answer this, but the point of the matter is they got to have parking for the people that do show up there. And
We have been on this property we bought this place 46 years ago, my wife and I. And we've seen a lot of changes, and this has been the most drastic one.
I'll bet, Jack.
And it is not going to benefit us at all. And in our latter years, we hate to see something like this come in. But we was hoping to be able to pass something on to our kids, but I don't think this is going to be beneficial to us at all. But you have answered my question. I don't think there's anything we can do about this because it is private property. It's still, I think they played fast and loose with the rules here.
Commissioner Savis.
I did want to just add that I have met with a number of people. I think one time we met with some of you about the marijuana topic in general. Were you part of that group that we met here a couple months ago?
Yeah, we met.
Yeah. So now that you've gotten more details, now more specific, I can't remember if staff was in that room at the time. Jennifer, I don't think you.
I think Mike has met with
That's right.
them twice.
Mike McAllister was there, and
Right.
Ben Blessing was
Yeah,
there.
and now at this point in time, now I'm hearing and seeing more details than we had back then at that particular time. So I think, Martha, you were part of that discussion as well.
I was,
Yeah.
and one of the reasons what I think, excuse me, Chair.
That's right.
One of the reasons I think it's important for people to come forward, because we do have a set of ordinances, and I was talking about this with Commissioner Savis the other day, we can always tighten things up, but the problem we may face is that the other things may be grandfathered in. I think that we talked about that dilemma, but it's important for people to come forward with their concerns because we don't know how this is. I mean, we're flying blind, in a way, flying blind too, trying to regulate something that's been unprecedented, and I think that I can say that nobody on this board supported that measure. I mean, rarely you want to admit how you voted, but I realized it was going to be just a boondoggle for this county and the impacts that it could potentially have on our rural areas. So now we're trying to see what we can do to be at least in my mind, as regulatory as possible because of the impact it has on quality of life. So.
Yep. I just want to add that what I've learned since then about your particular situation in particular from the town hall we had last week or so was that, you've got a small EFU lot and that setback that we have on the rural zoning does not apply to EFU zoning. So now you've got a unique situation where these smaller EFU lots, when we talked about this, I think we were hoping that these EFU sites would be larger sites, and that setback wouldn't be, wouldn't be pressed right up to the edge. And what's the setback on your particular one?
10 foot.
10 feet. Now, we didn't anticipate that, but that was a very difficult situation, and we're learning a lot on this right now, but it's just unfortunate that Right to Farm Act, that's something we had discussed when we implemented those rules, and it was very difficult. And I was hoping that we could at least get on the rural zoning, the rural RFF5 and RFF10, I was hoping that we could actually, one of those two zonings, eliminate grows on that and just limit it to EFU. But in your situation, you have a very small EFU lot that you're coping with. Now, are all the properties nearby all EFU, or is it a mix of EFU and RFF5 and 10?
All EFU.
They're all EFU?
That I know of.
Okay.
Now, the reason is, I can go back 46 years ago, I knew the original people that had that tax, that 5 acres there. Actually, it was 10 acres, split into 2 5 acres, son-in-law and daughter and such as that. What they did is they broke off the 1 acre tax lots and paid for them so they could get the financing on the rest of the property. That's what they told me just a lot of years ago.
So these are 1 acre lots?
No.
There were 2 1 acre lots.
I think it's a combined, like we're saying, there's a 1 acre piece and then there's a larger piece that goes with it. But I don't have the tax map in front of me, so I just can't verify. But that's not uncommon, again, for financing purposes, to break off the acre and take out the mortgage on that, and then have the acreage still goes with it under land use, but the lender's protected if they have to foreclose. So we do see that too. That could have been what happened here, but I'd have to look at the history of the
Those are
property.
all new details, but I
know.
just think that's odd. I had no idea that we have a 1 acre EFU lot.
Sure, it definitely can happen, just because the rules, were so different. Either there weren't any rules or the zoning was different, and really until the early 90s, the rules were less restrictive than they are now as far as creating small lots.
The zoning prior to that was RA1.
In a lot of
1 acre
places,
parcel.
yeah.
That's
Yep.
all that was required. Commissioner Bernard.
Yeah, and, it's the legislature that made it an outright crop. We were not in favor of that. And where I live is RRFF5, and my neighbor has 3 lots. One is 5 acres, and one is 1 acre, and one is the remainder. What was that? About 7 acres. So he can do various things on each section, but it's RRFF5, so really they can't do the marijuana grow as an outright. But it's the legislature's the one that did this to us, in my opinion.
Well, since we've owned that, since we've owned that property, when we moved there, it was rural agriculture 5 acres. And then they upped it to rural agriculture 20 acres. Then I don't know where the RA1 came in, but then Measure 37 came along. We got grandfathered into that, which was good. I split that little place up into 4 lots. But that went under the way, and then the county, and it cost me $800 and some bucks to get told that I'm going from 3 lots or 4 tax lots down to 3. Well, it's another story. And they say, well, we'll let you do 2. And I said, well, that's great, because I can sell 3 acres just probably a lot easier than I can 2. It didn't matter to me. I still got that where I can split it up, but I don't want to go anywhere. But surely I'm not happy about the situation we're in now. That's about all I got to say.
Commissioner Smith.
Jennifer, Mr. Carlson has used this term twice. He said we're playing fast and loose with the rules, and I tend to disagree with that. Can you help define that?
Well, I did review the file on this before last week's business meeting, where there were some folks that came and spoke. And, by my review, they followed all the rules that we established in terms of filing the application. It was a very well-done application. They've submitted all the studies that were required in terms of having done a noise modeling and having done the HVAC designed by a mechanical engineer for the carbon filtration and all. So everything appeared to be in order. I did not review this question about how many lots they have or where the property line is. I can certainly do that. just off the top, I suspect that it isn't going to make a difference, but I'm happy to look at that issue. But otherwise, it all looked in order.
Yeah, thank you. You know, these gentlemen, you were at our town hall in Molalla, where I was chair, and we tried the best we could to answer a lot of these questions. And I understand that you don't like the answers.
None of
And
them.
I understand that you don't like the answers, but we're doing the best we can to move forward on this. And I said, very first time I looked at this, and I've said it often since, that when we're making these rules, nothing is cast in stone of the issues that we have control over. We are more than willing to be flexible and change what needs to be changed, and that opportunity for us, as I stated Wednesday night at the meeting, was that we can change things, but we need to have a very specific ask from you people, more so than saying, no offense, sir, more so than saying, I've lived there for 46 years and I don't like it. I can't do anything with that, okay? I need something very specific that we can change in our ordinance to help relieve you of your discomfort for this. I understand marijuana is not a healthy thing. And Martha is right, none of us voted for it. In fact, we have said, do not pass this because you don't know what you're asking for. The citizens passed it anyway. And as I stated Wednesday night, I don't get to choose which laws I abide by or which laws I don't abide by because I'm an elected official. But please, if there's something specific that we can address in the zoning and the ordinances, please let us know.
Commissioner Bernard?
So November, we're going to put 3% on the ballot for marijuana tax. It's really important that that pass. And the reason is if that gentleman fails, his lights are on late at night, the fans are really loud, you can smell the marijuana. We don't have the money to enforce it unless that 3% tax is passed. So in November, you'll have an opportunity to make sure that your rights are protected and we can enforce those rules that we put on them. Without them, you know, it's wild, wild west.
Well, in my opinion, I think these rules should have been in place before this ever came down.
Oh, we did?
I mean, studies should have been made. You people went in there and opted in for this.
We didn't opt in.
Or opted out, one or the other.
No.
We didn't opt out either.
On this fast and loose statement I made, was the people that sold that property to the Zangs, which bought that 5-acre place there with those 2 tax lots. The people sold that place to these people, went up to Estacada and bought a place. They applied for 4 permits on this Estacada property. The minute all this sale transaction went down, and Zang, the people that bought it, paid for the permits. And what went down, when they got their money, the people that sold it, they transferred these 4 permits down to this property on Leland Road, and it was rubber stamped. And this is why I said that, and this is why I feel about it.
Okay. Thank you, sir. You're next.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jerry Myra, and Jack and I, our scenarios are all the same. We bought the property 46 years ago. It was Zone 1A. We could have divided into 1-acre lots according to the county. I had 18 acres. I got 15 acres now. But anyway, I was going to turn it over to my grandkids, but they don't want it now. But anyway, I'll go on with my speech. Thanks for the chance to speak my piece about the pot grove in my front yard. I've heard recreational marijuana is legally voted on. The vote was 52 in favor. That left 48% of the voters against it. What did they vote for? There is only 2 people in my circle that voted yes. When asked why they said to free up, why they voted yes to free up the courts and jail for the people with small doses of recreational marijuana and those who could grow up to 4 plants for their own use. Nothing was mentioned about the commercial pot grows. Now, after it was legal, the legislature and OLCC and the county made up the rules to go by. Now gets the bad part. 3 of our 5 commissioners voted not to let the people have a chance to vote on the rules that were made after the first vote made it legal. I hate to think the vote was influenced by money. Now Commissioner Smith will correct me and say it was a 4-to-1 vote, but that was only after Commissioner Schrader changed her vote to be in line with the other commissioners, leaving Commissioner Savas out in left field by himself. But I think he was in the right field. I think it might be too late to do much to help us on Leland Road to stop the pot grow. I think we got thrown under the bus and the bus is running over us. We have heard the commissioners can't stop them, or they can sue them, but we heard that we cannot sue them for lack of checking out the negative effects of the grow operation. Maybe enough people step up. Maybe the commission will come to their senses and put a hold on all permits till further studies are done on marijuana and the safety of our environment. I am hoping to make people aware of what 3 of our commissioners have done to our county and how it will affect our lives, our way of country living style, our air quality, and our security. If I can do that, I am hoping that the voters will make a more informed vote next election. And if they don't like the candidates, they can always do a write-in vote. Okay, and then I got one question. If you wanted a question, I'd like an answer to the question that was asked last Wednesday, and each commissioner give an answer. What would you do if they put a pot grove in your backyard?
Well, we don't often entertain questions that every commissioner has to answer, but I'll leave that up to the particular commissioners. Commissioner Savas.
Well, I'm not going to, there's no effort at all to try to throw anyone under the bus or my colleagues under the bus, but because you called out my left field thing, I'm not challenging that. You're good.
No, I put
heard
you in a
inform-
good spot.
I understand that those are your, I just want to clarify that, at least for the people in the audience and people watching this in the future at home, that what I grappled with, you're right. I agree with the part that I think a lot of people voted for Measure 91, thinking that was for the recreational use to free up the courts, and it was a small infraction, it shouldn't be tying up. And I agree with that. And the reason that I wanted to opt out, number 1, is give us more time, and number 2 is give the voters another chance to say, by the way, the grows is what I had a concern with. I didn't want to opt out on everything. You know, there's 4 categories you had a choice of opting out on. That was retailing, processing, warehousing, and grows. And then my issue was with grows. And my issue was whether you're in an urban community or a neighborhood or you're in a rural community and neighborhood, that quality of life aspect would be impacted by these grows, these commercial grows. And that's what I wanted to stand on. So thank you for bringing that out. I just wanted to say that was for not you personally, but others that are watching. That's why I had was pressing for the opt-out. It's to give us more time to analyze this, to look at all the implications and learn as much as we could and protect our quality of life in Clackamas County. That was what drove me to that.
Excuse me, I have one more question.
Nah,
What is the good in this marijuana thing for
I'm not going to
Oregon?
get into that right now, sir.
Pardon?
I'm not going to get into that right now.
No.
There was an inference here that somehow we've accepted money. You can go online to what's called ORSTAR and review any of our contributions. You will not find anybody who supported marijuana giving me money. I emphasize that. Not. Now, second of all, you said the people didn't have a chance to vote. They did vote. One of you said the figure. It was 52.1%. The people already voted. Are we to believe that just because we don't like the way a vote went, that we should put it up again and again and again? The people voted on this, the 52%. If it was for a school bond at 52.1%, would you go and say, well, we didn't like that, let's vote again on that? It wouldn't happen. The people of Clackamas County and the state of Oregon voted on this measure. And in Clackamas County, it passed. Now, You gentlemen have not allowed this facility to even start operating yet because you don't like the idea of marijuana growing next door. And the answer, I will give you an answer. I don't care. I've owned acreage before. I don't care. With the restrictions that we have on marijuana growing, I don't care. It's the noise I don't care about. There won't be that much noise at all. That's limited. There won't be light problems. There won't be odor problems. Then what is the problem? There is no problem yet, especially since they haven't even been able to start growing there. So, Commissioner Smith.
I'm living on a farm that my folks bought 57 years ago, and it's a very productive farm. It's true EFU zone. And my husband and I bought it 30 years ago. If somebody wants to put a marijuana grow next to me, have at it. I would not oppose them, but if they were in violation of any of the laws and regulations that we sent, I would be the first person to complain. But likewise, I too am confident that their grow operations, which are indoors, highly regulated, would not affect my quality of life. They would not pollute my groundwater. They would not have smells. And if they did, it would be corrected. Now, Mr. Savas mentioned his issue was grows. Well, my issue is grows too, because that's what I'm doing as a fourth-generation farmer in Clackamas County. And of any commissioner here, I think I understand grows and operations, farm operations, better than anybody. And if you want to get really smart about something, processing on EFU is a place where it should be, because it's out, not next to you people. It should be out in the open, far away from the neighbors, highly regulated inside with filtration, and then you're only transporting it down our roads once. I fought for that in the very beginning, and we may review that again. So that's what else is coming down the pike, because that makes sense. We did it for the lavender farms because they process at their place. We do it for other types of processing, like hazelnuts, like Christmas trees. So I think when you talk about agricultural uses, which we didn't want the legislature to say this was a right to farm, but you know, I take the right to farm statutes quite seriously, because I have lived in a time where people have come out from the city, built next to me, and objected that my tractor was operating at 5 o'clock in the morning and it was too noisy because they wanted to sleep in. So I don't accept that either. So a right to farm is a right to farm, and unfortunately, I don't determine that, but I must carry out the laws.
But then you do care. But I'm really sad. It's sad when the chairman of the county commissioners says he doesn't care, but I do.
Thank you, Mr. Carson.
Well, thank you for your time, but I'd take objection to Chair Ludlow when he said the people did vote. But then you guys then you made the rules after the vote. All the rules were made after the vote. That's when the people should have had a chance to vote.
Commissioner Bernard.
Well, we had lots of public hearings. And if we put everything out, all our decisions to a vote, we'd get nothing done. I do care. I live on our FF5. My neighbor built a marijuana place next door. I'd be very upset. I'd consider moving. But we didn't have the choice. So we tried to set the rules as tight as we could make them. Because if my neighbor builds a marijuana grow next door, like Commissioner Smith, I'll be on the phone every day complaining. And, you know, we made the rules as tight as the law allowed. They have to be reasonable. And believe me, we stretched the reasonable stuff pretty far. We really did. And my only real objection after we were done is the fencing issue, that the visibility of the facility and the fact that it could look like a prison in the middle of your neighborhood. And we are going to go back to that issue when it comes back up. And I think that's important too.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I appreciate your time and I appreciate your opinions, because you've enlightened us a lot. Maybe you've changed ours too.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I may want to hang around for the rest of the meeting, just in case. All right. And the last two I have is Richard Langdon and Mac Woods.
I have to get ready here, so I want to start. Come on, I have to get ready here, so.
You gotta get ready?
Yeah.
I'm not ready either.
Matt?
All right, I'll do it.
All right,
Here I go.
we're done.
Yeah, exactly. You know, John, before this starts, I have to say that I am, this stuff I hate doing, but, I was so impressed today. With this board is so much different than what used to happen here. The gentleman had the problem with his home occupation business. Nice guy. He did a fantastic job of testimony, and you and Tootie, and then the rest of you embraced and was excited about having Jennifer here. I mean, and Jennifer was not dismissive, not arrogant, none of those things that I've seen in the past. She was gracious, helpful, trying to figure out a way. How can we fix this problem? I know it's a difficult problem to fix because they are rules, but boy, that just didn't happen before. And the fact that she was invited to come up here and try to help the problem right now. I was told when I had a problem with land use that you guys are just puppets, that we run the county by one of the people here at Clackamas County. That was the old days. The new days, this is fantastic. Thank you very much. This is great. Thank you. Anyway, I'll just read this very quickly without a lot of animation so we can get through it without having the extra time that I took last week, and thank you for that, Tootie. We'll just do this in 3 minutes. I'm just going to do it without a lot of animation. I'm just going to read it. This is about Jim Bernard again, just to tidy up the end of what I talked about last week. I want the facts to be known.
Now, Richard, let me just, before you start.
Yeah.
Mary, stop the clock for a second. You know, one of the things that usually happens, especially at the legislature, that all testimony of this type will come through the chair. Now, I have not been, you've watched me, I don't, you must talk to me, that kind of thing. It just doesn't happen with me. However, let me remind you, of citizen communication, it says that communication must be relating to county government, that shall be limited to items of county business which are properly the object of board consideration and may not be of a personal nature. Comments shall be respectful and courteous to all. I observed your 8 minutes and 10 seconds of fame last week, and you obviously have some umbrage with Commissioner Bernard, and Commissioner Bernard, in my opinion, has always been pretty open to that kind of criticism. And he's not ever afraid to respond to said criticism. But I will ask you, whatever you're going to read, to not be of a personal nature. If it's a performance, something where he hasn't performed properly, I'm fine with that, and I'm sure he is as well. Thank you.
All right, so hopefully we can get through this in a way that works with that definition. I see that you mentioned 3 things. It pertains to government. Yes, it does.
Okay.
County business absolutely pertains to county business. We can't have people attacking citizens. That's county business. And courteous to all, absolutely. The same quality of courteous that comes from the board, not the board, individuals on the board. So we're at a wash, yes. So just let me read it. We'll be done with this.
Go ahead.
We won't have to deal with it again, hopefully. I don't want to come here and do this stuff. It's just to tidy up one item. I want to go through the 4 items that Bernard said about my friend Les Poole and just get the truth. He made 4 statements in this angry outburst that he had. I would like to go through them one by one in order to ascertain the truth of those statements.
Gonna have to hurry.
Yes. In regard to, well, here's what I'll do. We can either get through this today, and I'm not challenging you on this, John. We can
No, I
either
want
get
you to
through.
continue, and I'm probably going to give you a little bit extra time,
Thank
Richard,
you.
but it won't reach
Well,
last
do,
week's.
because otherwise I'll just have to start over again next week.
Go ahead.
I would like to go through them one by one to ascertain the truth of the statements. Number one, in regard to Kronberg Park in Milwaukee, how Les Poole led the fight associated with it, according to Mr. Bernard. Here's the quote. The battle was that it is a park donated to the city of Milwaukee. Actually, it was taken for back taxes, and it was a dump. Here's the truth. The truth is, as we all found out last week, is that the property was donated to the city. The lady came here last week, talked about her husband donating it, and we all learned that last week. Now, if there's some other information that this was taken or seized or condemned or in any form, I'd like to know it. In regard to the tree preservation ordinance that Mr. Bernard claimed that Les Poole led, here's the quote from Mr. Bernard. The tree ordinance battle was actually fought by that same guy, said Les Poole, end of quote. The truth is, Les Poole had absolutely nothing to do with the tree ordinance, and based on the record request. I'm getting through it. Number three, with regard to the struggle over the construction of the Gladstone Library, here's the quote from Mr. Bernard. The Gladstone Library would have been built right now, and that same guy who came up here and complains about what we do is the same guy who caused all this trouble, end of quote. The truth is that Mr. Les Poole if he had that kind of power to stop the Gladstone Library, similar to the power politicians have when they cast their votes, that would make him a politician. He's not one, at least not yet. Number four, this is the last one. The just angry, childlike casting of aspersions on Les Poole with regard to his expertise in rural development. Here's the quote. And I would love to see the expertise about rural development. It's just amazing. I've flown in a plane, but I don't know how to fly, end of quote. I'm finishing up. The truth is, I've been involved in the successful development of a number of shopping centers, single-family subdivisions, multifamily projects, and condominiums projects in more than one state. Les Poole and I have discussed development issues for years now, including all of the experience in developing rural properties. And I can assure you that to anyone that he is an expert in the area of rural development. Now, a couple of final notes. I was involved in the attempted development of the property at the intersection of Oatfield Road and Gladstone, the property that is proposed for the library. And I'd like to remind everyone that the politicians in Gladstone illegally stopped that development on that retail outright use property. At that time, and it unfortunately cost the citizens of Gladstone a fortune in a lost lawsuit. Next, I used the word condemned when I spoke of Kronberg Park last week, and I would like to apologize for that. Please accept my apology. The actual word that was used by Mr. Bernard was taken, as in taken for back taxes. And lastly, with regard to the tree ordinance I spoke of earlier, it was remarkable Mr. Bernard apologized for claiming that Mr. Les Poole was involved in it. Well, the apology by Mr. Bernard would have been remarkable until one later learns that Mr. Poole did a records search to prove otherwise, and Mr. Bernard found out about the search and realized that he had been found out about the lie. So he had to appear to be gracious, therefore an insincere apology.
Okay,
so,
Richard,
this is it.
You're
So,
really stretching it.
1, 2, 3, and 4, outright lies or innuendo of Mr. Bernard in an attempt to intimidate and silence a citizen. That behavior has a name. That name is tyranny. I am done. Thank you for your patience on that, John. I don't like doing this stuff. I don't like doing it. Citizens shouldn't get attacked and try to be silenced. I'm done. Thanks, John.
And Commissioner Bernard.
And I, would recommend that people do a comparison of when I talked about these issues and the way you responded at the last meeting. I think the biggest problem in this country is that folks think that politicians are not people too, that you can attack them viciously. That's the problem with this country, is that politicians are demonized for saying what they believe. I mean, I did witness Les Poole at many meetings objecting to Kronberg, objecting to the tree ordinance. He may not have led it, but, you know, I appreciate his involvement in the community, always have. He has a new light, a different vision than mine. But I think an outburst, angry, out of control county commissioner was not the person who sat up here the day I spoke about last. But it was pretty obvious that the day you sat there, it was an angry outburst. Thank you.
That is that's the sort of
Now, Richard, we're
response
not
I
gonna
would
get to
expect
back
from
and
Mr.
forth.
Bernard.
You're almost up to what you were last week. I really don't want the back and forth here.
Yeah, neither do I. You listen to that. You tell, all of you in the audience, you decide what you think of that.
Yeah.
All right.
Instead of an apology for all the attacks on citizens, he does what bullies do, defensive.
All right. Mr. Woods, thank you.
Chair Ludlow and Clackamas County Commissioners. I am MacArthur Woods. I live in Clackamas County, rural county, between here and Canby. And I'm learning a lot by listening. And I see a lot of problems that most politicians can't even grasp on. As a citizen, taxpayer, in Clackamas County, I see big-time problems in Clackamas County as well as in the state of Oregon. That concerns me as a veteran who put in over 20 years in the military, starting in 1960, retiring in 1980, where a veteran don't have the money to even pay their cotton-picking taxes on the money they get from retirement. That concerns me, as it should concern each and every veteran in Oregon, particularly the service-connected veterans that people like to talk what they're doing for them while they do nothing. That bothers me. My reason for saying that, if you'll bear with me, I see the problem. The problem is Oregon has two things in Oregon that no other state in the United States has. It has the LCDC, Land Conservation Development Corps. We see the mess that we're in because of that. We have in Oregon the PLF, Professional Liability Fund. Mr. Madcore understands that. I understand more than a lot of people because the cotton-picking attorneys don't even understand the laws that they are supposed to know and understand and go by. The proof is in the pudding of when I won a case against an attorney right here in Clackamas County, and they spent megabucks, and it cost me a lot of money to win the case against the PLF, Professional Liability Fund, their own insurance, and they pulled every trick out of their bag of tricks they could pull to win, and I still won 100% in my favor. I'll talk to you about that anytime, Mr. Madcore. Thank you for the looks. However, in Oregon, the attorneys don't even understand the rule of the law, which the Attorney General should enforce, and we have a new military man that's running for that seat, Daniel Crow, and I'm going to get the word out to all the veterans to vote for him so we can get him in that seat to straighten out the criminal fraud that's going on in Oregon. And he'll do that. I've talked to him and met him personally. In Oregon, the statute on fraud comes, and I'm getting this out to the public, fraud comes under ORS statute 12.110. Then the next in that same thing is theft by deception, Article 164.075. Then a little deeper, you need to read Mr. Madcore, theft by deception. That's Article ORS Statute 164085, and ending with criminal fraud, which can put some of these violators in prison. Criminal fraud 164.055. That's in the law in Oregon. I don't need to tell you anymore, but I'm concerned about Oregon since we're coming into this election, and to get some of these people that's pushing the laws that they don't even know and understand themselves. I'm talking about attorneys and judges that made mistakes on me, and I had to appeal and won that too. So I'm still learning the law after not having a day of college, and I'm going to go after them to get this county of Clackamas County back in line with the law, as well as the state of Oregon. My real question for you, commissioners, and I'm not pointing no fingers or calling no names, is what can you do to get Clackamas County, one of the 36 and the other 35 all work on Friday, to get Clackamas County back to a 5-day workday so we can at least come and talk to the veteran service officer or go over here and pay our taxes on Friday that we can't because they're closed. You know that. My question is, what can you do to get us back, Clackamas County, as it was before, to a 5-day work week? Thank you, Mr. Ludlow.
That, the 5-day work week
You have
during
a
my
question,
tenure
answer.
here.
I'll answer. I'm sorry. I can't hear good either. That's because I'm service-connected, disabled veteran. I don't see out of the left side and my hearing's bad, so please speak up. I ask all of you to do. I have difficulty hearing. Thank you. Go ahead. I'll answer any questions you ask.
The 5-day work week, I approached when I got in office in 2013, and I was outvoted. The following year, I asked again, and I was outvoted. So there's no reason for me to try again. It is the lay of the land currently. If you surveyed all the workers here, I'm sure that they would say that they prefer a 4-day work week over a 5. Now, remember that.
I understand that. They don't want to work and get paid more for it than veterans get, but go ahead. I want to comment on your comments then, but thank you. Let me listen.
No, that's not going to happen.
Well, see, you don't allow us,
Oh,
the
come
voting
on,
people,
Mac.
to do what
You
we need
went
to.
well over the 3
Hey, I'm done.
minute-
I'm going home. I've wasted a lot of time in telling on you devils, and you don't listen. Thank you.
What a lovely day. The point of the matter is we also were able in 2013, I believe, to open up building services. Because, and remember that prior to that, the assessor for recording purposes is open on Friday, and all of our building services are available on Friday. But the rest of the city, the county works at 4-day work week. I don't anticipate that that's going to change, so I wasn't asking a question, Mac. I was making a statement. I don't know. I'm talking into the microphone here. I'm not going to repeat it. I'm not going to repeat it.
I'm sorry?
I'm not going to repeat it.
Thank you. I need to hear you. Well, why don't we talk in private? I've asked you to do that several times. You won't do it. None of you commissioners want to
Mac,
talk
I
to me in
have
private.
called you before.
When?
I can give you probably a half a dozen times over the
Don,
past 2 years.
let's be honest with each other. Prove it.
Mac, we're done.
Well, I got some of your emails.
Oh, I'll call you. We're done right now.
How about right after this meeting?
I'm
today?
busy right after this, but I'll call you, Mac.
Thank you.
It always makes you so happy about calling somebody after they chew your rear end out, doesn't it? All right. Commissioners, well, then don't ask. Commissioner Smith.
Likewise, when I came into office, I wanted to return to a 5-day work week because I understand the reason why commissioners went to a 4-day work week is the economy was down. They had done studies to show if our buildings were operating on a 4-10-hour work week, they would save money and energy costs, and it was a really financial difficult time. I understand that. However, we came back, and from our citizens we heard, well, we think that the government should be open 5 days a week so we could do our business. So what we did is we opened some of the services back up that Mr. Ludlow talked about, and one is permits at our building counter and all those that they mentioned. Also, our county clerk is open 5 days a week. Our sheriff's department has never been 4 days a week. In fact, they're 24/7. Our jail is 24/7. Our health clinics are open 5 days a week. I believe they've always been open 5 days a week. Many of our human services, because we are mindful of the fact that people need around the 5 days at least to be able to come access your government and go forward with that. Now, I have met personally and had breakfast several times with Mr. Woods. And he has called me this week, and we've been playing phone tag, and I always call him back and try to talk, but Mac does not want to talk on the telephone, but he always wants to meet in person. And Frankly, I am not always available to meet in person, but I will talk on the telephone with anybody. I have an extremely busy schedule, as we all do. So I have gone out of my way to try to accommodate Mr. Woods.
Commissioner Savas.
Well, I appreciate Commissioner Smith clarifying that there are several operations in the county that are actually either 24/7 or work 7 days a week, not people, but parts of our operation. But I do want to say that there are, you know, when we changed it in 2013 to open our service counters to 5 days a week, that was to increase service and help folks. And I still believe that the service counter should probably include Veterans Affairs as well. But I do want to just point out that for efficiency, you know, that the business community is the one who actually developed the 4-day work weeks, longer days, and sometimes, in some cases, 3-day work weeks, where people work 12 hours a day. So it's not unusual to have some operations that actually can, you know, do that in a shorter amount of time, and reduce cost. You know, it's not a lot, but if you don't have the power on and the lights on, there is a reduction of cost. And so I do want to point out that that we do have a number of our operations that don't require 5 days or 6 days or 7 days of operations or work. So that's all I have.
Commissioner Schrader.
That's the question for Mr. Krupp, so I get the number right. Essentially, how many employees have we got in the county? I want to say 1,200, but I want to make sure.
For the
Closer to
entire county,
2,000?
there's 2,000 employees in the
2,000
county.
employees, must have been 1,200 when I was first on here. So basically, I don't object to a 5-day work week. I never have. What my concern was back in 2013, with that number of people and employees with multiple departments, with everything from transportation and development to human services to planning, we had asked people, and I actually was not here after they implemented a 4-day work week. I was always initially as a commissioner on a 5-day work week, and Mary, you remember that. It really happened, then I went to the Senate, and then I came back to a 4-day work week. It was, as Commissioner Smith says, it was a way to see if we could cut costs, if people would adjust to it well, if they would like it. So at that time, we were asking, you know, close to 2,000 people, I'm sure, to change their schedules and their lives. People with children, people who are taking care of the elderly, people who have other commitments in their life, and they're working to serve this county. So in order to change back to a 5-day work week, we would have to be very judicious in how we implemented that. And the start was in 2013 with these departments that were deemed essential, that could get there, that we could get there. I don't object to going back to it, but what I do object to is we can't just one day say, next week you're all going back on a 5-day work week. It was a huge change for all the folks back when it was implemented to a 4-day, and to ask people to go back is going to take a lot of planning and a lot of effort, because they have organized their lives in their daycare and their childcare and other things that they do around a 10-hour workday. So again, I just want to make clear, I've never objected to it, but I wasn't feeling as if at the time that we were really talking about what kind of an organizational shift and process we would implement to make that happen. So we've already started down that road. Certainly, if we wanted to look at it again, I wouldn't mind working with our administrator. But it would be very wrong of us and very disconcerting and upsetting to our employees that serve our citizens to just suddenly say next week, by the way, good luck, we're now changing your hours once again, and you have no time to cope with it, change it, or see how you're going to manage that. It's about managing organizational change. I know that sounds wonky, but in an organization this size, you have to think about those things when you try to lead it and make the policy for the organization.
Commissioner Bernard.
So it's beyond that. It's in the union contracts.
That's true, yeah. You have to change that.
And a number of folks have been attracted to work in Clackamas County because of the 4-day work week. And people have changed their lives with their child care and all those other things. And we changed the system where the counters were available. The building industry asked us to. We worked with that department and did that. Records for realtors and other people who need their records, we did that. But not all departments need to be 5 days a week. I mean, it's attracted people to this county. And we're losing people to other counties, by the way, right now because of, their wage increases. What was the one the other day? We were told they got a $20,000 a year increase in mental health. And we lost a bunch of employees. We can't match that. That's a private. I think that was it was Kaiser.
It was 10,000, by the way.
It was 10?
I think it was 20%.
Oh, 20%. But it was a lot of money. And so one of the ways we can attract people is the 4-day work week. And again, it's in contracts. That means we'd have to open up all of our contracts. Yeah. And that's not something I'm interested in doing.
You know, I guess what's most disconcerting to me is, on one hand, we get compliments for actually interacting with those who want to testify, with actually bringing in professionals and answering their questions. We get compliments on the change from previous commissions. And yet we continue to get barraged with complaints that we don't answer their questions right, that it's not enough. I mean, there's a dichotomy, isn't there? I mean, so should we go back to, what have I got here? 8 cards times 3 minutes, 24 minutes, that's over. Do you recall, Richard, Les, how it used to be treated? Your 3 minutes was done, the gavel came down as necessary, and people ignored you, no matter what question you asked. And yet now you would think this is better, but it doesn't feel better from up here. It's still a butt chewing for what? So maybe we return to the days of yesteryear. It's 3 minutes, I pound the gavel, it's over, and we won't answer you. Because it's not feeling better this way. That's my opinion, I'm sticking to it. Now we're going to get on with other business here, which is the reading and adoption of previously approved land use ordinance. Mr. Krupp.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have 2 of these items on the agenda this morning. The first is the reading and adoption of a previously approved land use ordinance, ZDO-255. It's a legislative text amendment to the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan, and also the Southeast 172nd Avenue, 190th Drive Corridor Management Plan. Mr. Nate Boderman is here to give you information about this item.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have for you today 2 separate ordinances, like Mr. Krupp noted, the first of which relates to land use hearing you conducted last week on ZDO 255, which is a legislative text amendment to the Southeast 172nd Avenue, 190th Drive Corridor Management Plan, which really addresses the realignment of a planned intersection at 100.
Hold on for just a second. The conversation occurring in the back can be heard all the way up here, which means it's on the microphones too. So if you want to converse, best idea is to go out in the hallway. Thank you.
The change really addresses the realignment to a planned intersection at Southeast 172nd Avenue and Southeast Troge to minimize impacts to an identified wetland, as you'll probably recall. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this matter on May 23rd, 2016, and unanimously recommended that the board approve ZDO 255 as proposed by staff. The board conducted a public hearing on this last week, and what was probably the fastest public hearing that I've witnessed here at Clackamas County, 13 minutes, and unanimously voted to approve the amendment as recommended by the Planning Commission. So that was last Wednesday. Staff has prepared the ordinance materials in front of you today, consistent with the board direction at last Wednesday's hearing, and it's certainly staff's recommendation that you approve this order as presented before you today. Happy to answer any questions you might have on ZDO 255.
All right, Commissioners, any questions? All right, I'll ask for the motion.
I move we read ZDO-255 by title only.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Schrader, seconded by Commissioner Savas to read the ZDO 255 by title only. Any further discussion? All right, Mary.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
Chair Ludlow.
Aye. Passes 5-0. I'll ask for a motion to adopt.
I'm going to read it first. Okay. It's ordinance number ZDO 255, an ordinance amending Appendix A of the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan and the Southeast 172nd Avenue, 190th Drive Corridor Management Plan.
All right. I'll ask for the motion now.
I move we adopt zoning and development ordinance -255, legislative text amendment to amend Appendix A of the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan and the Southeast 172nd Avenue, 190th Drive Corridor Management Plan as previously approved at the June 15, 2016 land use hearing.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. Any further discussion on this matter? All right, Mary?
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow?
Aye, passes 5-0. That's the first one. Now, we have a second one.
Yes, so the second one is ZDO 256. You're reading and adopting a previously approved land use ordinance. This is a legislative map amendment to change the land use plan designation and the zoning for land removed from the city of Damascus. And again, Mr. Boderman is here to talk with you about this.
Thank you. Again, we have the ordinance related to ZDO 256. This should still be fresh in your mind from the land use hearing yesterday.
A little closer to the microphone if you could.
Sure. So details are contained in the staff report, so probably don't need to rehash too much, except to note that the purpose of the amendment is to ensure that the current comprehensive plan and zoning designations apply to land that comes under the jurisdiction of Clackamas County as a result of de-annexation or disincorporation from the city of Damascus. The Planning Commission conducted a hearing on June 13th, 2016, and voted 7-0 to recommend the BCC approve ZDO 256. The board conducted a public hearing yesterday, June 21st, 2015, and voted to approve ZDO 256 as recommended by the Planning Commission by a vote of 5-0. Staff has prepared the ordinance materials in front of you today, consistent with the direction you gave us at the hearing yesterday, and it's our recommendation that you approve the order.
All right, any questions or clarification needed?
I just wanted to say something. Actually, this is a really good example of how concerned we were about marijuana and the fact that Damascus had no rules.
Right.
And it's so important to us that we had staff spend the time to make sure that this issue was resolved before Damascus de-annexed. And it was very important to all of us. Literally, it would have been the Wild Wild West out there had this
My
not
quote,
occurred.
you're stealing my quote.
Oh, sorry. You used that one?
Yeah, I did. All right, so if there's no further questions or clarification necessary, I'll ask for the motion.
I move we read ZDO 256 by title only.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Savas, seconded by Commissioner Schrader. So, Mary?
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow?
Aye, passes 5-0. I'll ask the clerk to read ZDO 256 by title only.
Ordinance number ZDO 256, an ordinance amending map 4 through 6, map 4 through 7, and Appendix A of the Clackamas County Comprehensive Plan and zoning maps 1 through 7, 1 through 8, 2 through 6, 2 through 7, and 2 through 8 of the Clackamas County Zoning and Development Ordinance.
All right. So,
Motion.
yeah, the motion.
I move we adopt zoning and development ordinance 256, legislative map amendments to change the land use plan designation and zoning for any land removed from the city of Damascus unless such land is annexed by another city as previously approved as the June 22nd, 2016 land use hearing.
Second.
Whip through that. All right, Commissioner Bernard with the motion, Commissioner Schrader with the second. Any further discussion? All right, Mary?
Commissioner Savas?
Aye.
Commissioner Bernard?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader?
Aye.
Chair Ludlow?
Aye, passes 5-0. And now the consent agenda. I'll ask the clerk to read the consent agenda by title.
Okay, the consent agenda. Under Health, Housing, and Human Services, approval of a revenue agreement with Health Share of Oregon for behavioral health services to members enrolled in the Oregon Health Plan. Approval of a renewal professional services agreement with Passport to Language for interpretation services at the Clackamas County Health Centers. and approval of a grant agreement with Legacy Health and the Health Centers Division for support of and construction of the Unity Health Center. Approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with the City of Gladstone Senior Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents age 60 and over. Approval of an interagency agreement with North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, Milwaukee Center, to provide social services for Clackamas County residents age 60 and over. And approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with the City of Oregon City and Pioneer Community Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents 60 and over. Approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with the City of Sandy Senior Center and Community Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents age 60 and over. Approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with the City of Wilsonville Community Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents. Approval of a construction contract with Subcom Excavation and Utilities for the North Cedar Street Improvement Project. Under the Department of Transportation and Development, approval of Amendment Number 2 to the Intergovernmental Agreement Grant Number 30687 with Oregon Department of Transportation to develop the Villages at Mount Hood Pedestrian and Bikeway Implementation Plan. Approval of a contract with Blue Line Transportation for liquid asphalt. Approval of a contract with Western Emulsions for liquid asphalt, and a contract with Albina Holdings for liquid asphalt. Under elected officials, approval of previous business meeting minutes, and then under technology services, approval of an ORMAP intergovernmental agreement, contract number 3536-16, with the Oregon Department of Revenue for digital GIS tax lot conversion. Under Business and Community Services, approval of a revenue intergovernmental agreement with Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife for fish monitoring and Spring Park Natural Area. And under Water Environment Services, approval of an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement between Clackamas County Service District Number 1 and Metro for the Rock Creek Confluence Restoration Natural Area Bond Measure Capital Grant Award. Continuing under Water Environment Services, approval of a joint funding agreement between Clackamas County Service District Number 1 and the U.S. Geological Survey for Johnson Creek monitoring. Approval of a joint funding agreement between Surface Water Management Agency of Clackamas County and the U.S. Geological Survey for Tualatin River monitoring, and approval of a joint funding agreement between Clackamas County Service District Number 1 and the U.S. Geological Survey for creek flow monitoring. And I'm losing my voice, but that concludes the consent agenda.
That's real long for you. All right, Commissioners, you want to pull any of those? You want to pull any of those items? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Smith and seconded by Commissioner Bernard to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All right, Mary.
Commissioner Bernard.
Aye.
Commissioner Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Savas.
Aye.
And Chair Ludlow.
Aye, passes 5-0. It's time for the county administrator update.
Yes, Commissioners, and as always, I have some items of good, positive news about county activities. Do you know this, that our health centers are known internationally?
No.
We have a worldwide reputation. So in the spirit of international collaboration, last week, our management from our health centers division of H3S hosted healthcare professionals from what is the primary arm of Singapore's National Healthcare Group. They came to visit. It was a visit to share our experience with our health centers here in Clackamas County with our home model of primary and team-based care. And I think it's rewarding to know that our expert staff are sought after for advice and counsel from people across the globe. So good job on the part of our health centers staff for that. Then last night, the Regional Coalition for Clean Rivers and Streams which includes our Water Environment Services Department, presented the River Starts Here campaign at the Oregon Museum of Science and Industry. That's a campaign dedicated to educating the public about the impact of stormwater runoff pollution on the health of our rivers and streams. And last night's event was titled Debunking River Myths. It provided event attendees with tips as to how to protect our Willamette River. I guess they handed out some temporary tattoos and big smiles with the kids, so good job on the part of our West staff for that. And then, as you all know, on July the 1st, the 2-mile Sunrise Expressway will be open to the public, and there are grand opening ceremonies for the road to be held next Thursday, June the 30th. There's a public group bike ride that's scheduled from 5:30 to 7 p.m. to celebrate the use of the multi-use path, and cyclists are asked to gather at the shared use path at the Clackamas Town Center Max Station at 5:30 with a ride beginning at 6. The new 4-lane expressway will improve connectivity to and within our Clackamas industrial area, and while ODOT has been completing the expressway, we've taken the lead on related projects in the area to improve circulation overall, including the lawn field connection and the industrial way extension, both of which have been completed, and the Tolbert overpass, which is currently in construction. Now, because that event next week, because of that event, commissioners will be attending it, and so our regularly scheduled business meeting is actually going to be scheduled on Wednesday, June the 29th at 10 a.m. So I want to make sure folks are aware of that we will convene here Wednesday in the morning as opposed to Thursday next week.
Thank you. All right. So now it's time for Commissioner communications. We'll start with Commissioner Schrader.
Great. Well, I wanted to speak specifically about our Economic Development Commission and the meeting I attended the other day. It was a conversation with Oregon Story Board, and I've mentioned this before. Oregon Story Board, Clackamas Community College, and Intel are partnering to create a workforce of skilled developers and storytellers for HoloLens. And basically, HoloLens is a virtual reality field. It's Microsoft's yet to be released reality headset that takes you, the computing experience, out of the computer and releases it to the surroundings. And we had a conversation about it and got a look at the technology, and it's quite remarkable. You can put on a headset and you can see in 3D, and one of the applications in manufacturing is actually in 3D, being able to manage and put things together for a template to see how you build something. Another application is you can have people from different spaces and areas potentially in the world who could be brainstorming and working on those kinds of problems together, manipulating in real time how things fit together, how it should be designed, and how it can work. It is actually also going to revolutionize, I believe, medical technology scanning and how they treat folks with physicians. So it's pretty remarkable, and there's a lot of research going on with it. The other thing that it's actually doing is it's going to transform education and how people learn, because instead of just having a flat computer screen, eventually people will be able to, in classrooms and in education, actually have a 3D experience as they work through this. And that's about as technical as I can get with it. But one of the things I wanted to remind people, it was Clackamas Community College alongside 4 of the universities, Carnegie Mellon, Dartmouth, Virginia Tech, and UC Berkeley, were recipients of the Microsoft Grant Award. And so Oregon Storyboard has become one of the partnerships, and they have actually opened their space where people can get trained professionally in this new technology, and they actually have studio classes there. So not only are we innovating with these partnerships and the grants, a new 3D virtual technology, we are also gearing up with our local workforce board to get people there so they can get trained and learn how to use this. It's going to have a major impact, I think, on how they teach folks at Oregon Tech. They already have 3D imaging, and this is going to move that a step forward. So For me, that likes that kind of innovative stuff, I think all my colleagues agree it was a pretty exciting conversation into the new science fiction that is not science fiction anymore of 3D HoloLens economies. I continue to work with Commissioner Savas. We're actually going to be having a visit with Commissioner Pat Farr on Monday from Lane County, where we're going to pick his brain about the process of how they have managed to work with homeless shelters. And one of the key things, and I handed this out to my colleagues during our business meeting the other day, they actually pulled together an information list that listed every single group, for-profit, nonprofit, and county that deals with this issue. So they first identified the roadmap of who's on first, who's doing what with homelessness, who has the opportunity for spaces to house people, and they're collaborating together in a huge umbrella model with the city of Eugene. And ours will probably be somewhat different, but it's well worth looking at to see how we can pull together those collaborations. So that's a really interesting thing. It's hopefully going to be part of one of our initiatives to end homelessness, not just with veterans, but in general, the entire state. In rural areas, urban areas, and suburban areas are experiencing problems with adequate housing for citizens, all the way from affordable housing to the whole piece of definitely being homeless with no place to go other than a car, a tent, or under a bridge. So with that, those are the two big pieces I've been working on, but let's switch now to arts and culture activities in the county. Okay, it should be coming on. Yay.
Well, you can talk about it, they can read it
I can talk
later.
about it? Okay, I'll talk. Here it goes. Okay. We already mentioned this, the Clackamas County Lavender Festival, one of our agricultural successes where we allow processing on that site because they're a good business and they're doing great things for ag. The festival includes a unique experience of enjoying the ambiance of the first distillation of the summer lavender harvest, demonstrations, music, food, beer, and wine tasting. You pick lavender, wreath making, local vendors, and fun for the kids. Saturday and Sunday, June 25th and 26th, 10 to 5 at the Oregon Lavender Farm in Oregon City. Art Jam, Artists in Interactive Concert, Three Rivers Artists Guild and Youth Music Project. Bring music and art together. Top Portland pianist Craig Bedondo, joined by his collaborator, upright bass player Tim Gibson, will compose and perform original music inspired by the audience as they create visual art at this live event. Bring your journals, sketchbooks, coloring books, and join the fun or just soak up the vibes. Saturday, June 25th, 6 to 9 at Singer Hill Cafe in Oregon City. And finally, this is not on the list, but I'm going to mention it. This is the weekend of the Lakewood Festival of the Arts. I'll be going tonight to their opening foray, and the theme is Chasing Paper and Paper as an Art Form. I already got a preview at Lakewood. We've got some very unusual, beautiful things being made with paper sculptures and all kinds of beautiful three-dimensional artwork. And that art festival is going to continue for the entire weekend. It's going to continue on Saturday and Sunday. And we're all going to be, I think all of us are going to be going up to the mountain for our C4 retreat, but I'm heading back Saturday afternoon, and Sunday morning I'll be volunteering at the festival. So come on and say hi. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernard.
This week, I attended drug court graduation. Judge Steele is the judge in this program. These are folks who have many times tried to become citizens again and failed many times, but these folks have, most of them were in the 500-day off of drugs. Some got their families back. I mean, one woman had lost her child and everything. And thanks to the hard work of our CSAP program and the work put behind helping them out and their commitment, frankly, because it's a choice they make. And the choice isn't a good one, maybe, either jail or go through this program, but it is very successful. One of our folks down at our residential facility, Joy Thalman, actually helped develop the CSAP program, which is used all over the place now as one of the best practices. Damascus, really happy we got this done, and now we're just waiting for the court to make the decision on the vote. C4 this weekend, and I have an opportunity to see a movie next week, Legend of Tarzan, which is a Dark Horse Comics movie. I didn't know that. So Mike Richardson, the owner of Dark Horse Comics, is a friend of mine, and actually used to work at my business, and his father worked for my father. So get to go see that movie as it premieres. It's kind of fun. And that's, then tonight is a Willamette Falls Heritage Area Coalition business presentation at the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center off of Washington Street. And today we have some Clackamas County Sheriff's officers being sworn in and promotions. So with that, we're on to Dharma. Oh, how did that happen? So this is Dharma. Dharma is a large breed lady who walks lovely on a leash, takes treats gently, and is looking for a nice, relaxing retirement home. She is a social but quiet girl with none of the puppy antics to worry about. She wants to be your companion, your best friend. Once you meet her, you won't know how to go on without her by your side. For more information about Dharma and other adorable dogs, please contact Clackamas County Dog Services at 503-544-8628 or visit us on the web at www.clackamas.us/dogs. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
This weekend, we have a retreat that we're attending with C4, and C4 means the Clackamas County Coordinating Commission? Committee. It is county people and a lot of city people, rural people, to try to figure out a direction for our affordable housing. And as a co-chair of the subcommittee on C4, I presented this issue, try to work on it together with our cities because it is a big problem. We'll also be discussing a few transportation issues. I want to thank the Budget Committee for approving a heritage coordinator, and I'm going ahead with those efforts to try to get some work done on our history and our collections and the heritage issues in the county that have long been ignored. I was told by somebody this would be kind of like trying to achieve peace in the Middle East if this was going to be successful. And so we'll give it a try and see what happens. I will be attending, like Jim said, the Sheriff's Awards and then the Heritage presentation this evening. And that's it.
All right. And Commissioner Savas.
Well, Monday evening, I attended a hearing discussion at Portland University held by the Speaker of the House, Tina Kotek, and some other legislators and people from DEQ and some scientists and the Oregon Health Authority. The topic is really about air quality. It was basically a two-part thing. Primarily, the first part was dedicated towards emissions from business operations in that area. It's over the Swan Island area where there's a lot of industrial activity. And the second part was about diesel emissions, primarily related to transportation. And right now, recently, as you know, with the glass companies and so forth, there's been a lot of attention and press drawn around air quality. And with the governor's task force related to transportation options and her commitment towards a transportation package in 2017 being brought before the legislature, there has been a substantial amount of efforts and public involvement and panels are going around the state listening to concerns and sizing up what that package might look like. So yesterday morning, the governor was at a West Side Economic Alliance breakfast, and she spoke to that and had mentioned, and it's pretty clear that right now, if number one priority out of the governor's office is transportation, virtually everyone, almost every event of significance, you hear from people who are elected that the number one priority for them, transportation ranks right up there. And it's not uncommon, really, frankly, to engage folks about this. And tomorrow is two-part retreat. So tomorrow at the C4 retreat will be transportation, and on Saturday it'll be housing. It kind of wraps that all together. I'm also looking forward to meeting with Commissioner Pat Farr from Lane County on Monday to see what they did to come up with a successful model for dealing with housing for the homeless, or interim housing for homeless veterans and others. So it's a model that we can ideally adopt. But I do want to say the exciting part, I would think, for me, is that we're actually, and the governor's visioning panel heard this as well, a number of elected officials say, how do we make decisions as it relates to transportation? Why do we build this and not that, or why do we build that and not this? And I think that that's a great discussion, and in this area, we're in an air quality attainment area, meaning MPO, meaning air quality is huge, and so to actually see that come into the discussion and actually be part of how we make decisions, I think will be pretty enlightening, and hopefully we can make some decisions that actually deal with congestion, and congestion causes a lot of air pollution and causes a lot of hardship on businesses and people when we try to move. And we are growing our population in this area pretty impressively. I don't have all the stats. I'll try to bring back those stats of what those are, but we have so many new vehicles being registered every day and people moving to the state every day in this region. We have outsized our transportation system. That is not a secret. And hopefully we can address that. And I don't know what, as I gleaned from the governor's speech yesterday morning, I believe in September they'll have basically an outline of a package in September that they'll be floating about. And hopefully there'll be something in it for everyone, but I'm sure that for some folks there might be some things that people don't like, have no idea what that looks like, none whatsoever. But we have some important projects in Clackamas County, I think, that are important, and hopefully at least one or two of them will be part of that. And that's what I have for today. Looking forward to next week.
Thank you. Well, I was gone last week, but I've been back this week. You know, the Southwest Corridor was recently approved by a special steering committee. The Southwest Corridor would entail up Barber Boulevard, a rail line from Portland through King City, Tualatin, and Tigard. Now, remembering that Tualatin, Tigard, and King City passed an ordinance that said they get to vote on light rail, not dissimilar to what happens here in Clackamas County should light rail ever be proposed again. Now, the preliminary, and they always seem to go up, do they not? The preliminary estimate is $2.5 billion for the Southwest Corridor. This is not for cars. In the Portland metropolitan area have been identified 3 key choke points for transportation. We mean automobiles and trucks. Those are the Rose Quarter, 217, and 205. Every year, JPAC, Metro, and TriMet go back to the federal government and say, we need money. And usually it's for mass transit. And don't be kidded by the fact that, you know, the state's going to come up with a new transportation plan and too much money will be going into rails instead of where we really need it, where the 91% of us need it, and that's in roadways. We need these areas fixed. Every other state in the union is building freeways. Not here. Oh, no. We intend to stack and pack people up and force them into mass transit. That's what's happening here. Where are our advocates back there in D.C. saying, we need roadway improvements. We need freeway improvements to move people. In just the last several years, I've asked when we were on the campaign trail several different groups, have you not noticed in the last several years how bad it's getting out there? Now, Metro is responsible for several things. Density is one. Oh my gosh, ask Portland how they're feeling about that. And transportation is another. Metro continues with their brethren at TriMet to say we need more rails. Yet we continue to be stuck in traffic longer and longer every darn day. So it's time we have a new realization about what should be the priority, and that's the priority that people are most frustrated about, and that's congestion. We need a new priority. Now, I was at the Urban Growth Task Force that put together by Chair Hughes of Metro yesterday. There's 10 mayors there from the region, LCDC, 1,000 Friends, home builders, and we all got together. And they're talking about the disintegration of Damascus. And one of the things I've decided to do is hold kind of a forum where we would bring together LCDC, Metro, the city of Gresham, because of our boring property, and Happy Valley, and talk about the future of that huge urban growth boundary area. Well, it was kind of decided yesterday by somebody who says they represent Clackamas County, Carlotta Collette. She decided that what needs to happen, since Sherwood in Washington County needs about 2,200 acres, she said we can just swap and take that Damascus 22 acres and give it to you. Now, there's something wrong with that. That growth area was supposed to be for Clackamas County. Now, because of internal strife, Damascus went by the wayside. And that's okay if that's what they wanted. But that kind of growth is necessary in Clackamas County, probably in another place. So if there's any swapping to go on, that land should land in Clackamas County, not in Washington County. So that's their new design at Metro. Again, for somebody who says they represent Clackamas County interests and is willing to pull at minimum, and this is just a start, at minimum 22 acres out of Damascus and give it to Washington County. There's something wrong-headedness in this, and I intend to fight it as far and long as I can. I don't even know if it's legal for them to do that. They often talk about the partnership. Even people up here have talked about the partnership with Metro. These are not acting like partners, these people. They're acting like adversaries. They're acting like bullies. And so the point of the matter is Metro has another idea. They don't give a lick what you think, frankly. They're going to do what they please. Doesn't matter how much you remonstrate. When they come up with an idea, they're going to pass it. This includes climate smart and every other thing they seem to come up with. I've said before that they do a reasonable job at the zoo. By the way, they do sell zoo dew if you're interested on your garden. It does smell worse than chicken, you know what, but zoo dew is an idea. They do garbage kind of okay, but they fail abysmally over density and transportation. And we continue to be the victims of same. That's about all I have to say. Oh my gosh, there it is, folks. So, people have said through that campaign, well, John Ludlow pokes the eye of Metro. Well, who's to do it then? Is anybody else stepping up? I was in that meeting yesterday, and it was like they drank a bunch of Kool-Aid, and it wasn't the good stuff either. Somebody needs to hold their feet to the fire, and I intend to continue to do that in my campaign as I return to be chair of Clackamas County. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think there's anything else, and so there being no further business before the commission this day, this meeting is adjourned.